There's going to be a public version of this video and a private version. I hope that you watch the other videos that I posted this week so that you can understand what I'm saying if you care. If you don't care for it, doesn't matter. Point is, I like a certain level of follow-through, and I've heard that showing your work is really the only way to prove the results. So I'm going to show the work again and again and again until someone gets it and understands that I do good work. And that's about all I can say. So have a great day. Thanks for checking in. Thanks for following through. The story always starts at Big Bend National Park for me, and right before I headed off to Montana, I'd received my Jeep Badge of Honor from Black Gap Road, which is in Big Bend National Park. And that's what you're seeing right now. Basically, it's the documentation and the badge that I received for completing one of the challenging tours or one of the challenging trails that Jeep has identified as their Badge of Honor trail system. So Black Gap in Big Bend National Park is a fantastic road. It's absolutely worth checking out, but it's only a fraction of what you can experience traveling to some place like Montana. I covered an incredible distance. I actually slept for just a few moments. I was transporting a tomato plant, which you see on the right, and then I got to the point where I got to care for a house that had 3 house cats and 3 fish. You'll see various arrays of things that are in the place, including a crib that's jam-packed with a lot of stuff. There was stuff everywhere in the house when I got there, which is not wrong. And although the homeowner had asked me to leave things as they were, it was very difficult because everything that I would open, including the microwave or the stove or the refrigerator, or even just to grab a seat, or you see a pile of dirt on the left. It's already on the last screen. There's so many things going on. It's impossible to talk about this fast enough to say what happened, except for I was given an opportunity to house sit for a friend. Look at the counters here. Now look at the counters. The floors are the same. Look at the floor. And look at the counter. The toaster. So many things in this situation were wrong from the get-go, that had been unresolved for quite some time. And as a friend who was brought, look at the fish tank. It was so dirty. The water was so dirty. I thought there were only 2 fish in there that were alive still. It wasn't until I started really draining that filth to get to this point where you saw the clean water that I found the 3rd fish. And the 3rd fish, all 3 fish survived, by the way. No fish were harmed in the making of this video. There were quite a few things that were harmed, like the piece of luggage that was broken. It was already harmed, and I took it to the dump station, asked the lady who told me that she had been warned about me. I asked the lady, hey, if I have a broken piece of luggage, what do I do with it? She said, no, you just throw it, in the same place that all the other garbage goes. And I went ahead and did that because I was planning to replace the luggage situation, and also a couple of other items that were broken in the house. I was planning to replace those in a way that would absolutely benefit the homeowner. I'm really just avoiding saying names in an audio format so I don't have to go back and scrub things. You saw a light fixture. I took a picture of a light fixture to take the information with me so I could buy the right light bulbs. There were many light bulbs that weren't working in the house. When I left the house, there were only 2 light bulbs that weren't. Look at the microwave, the inside of the microwave. I couldn't microwave any food until after I cleaned it. The microwave, I mean. There were just things I couldn't do, So I apologize in advance and after the fact for anyone whose feelings got hurt while I was doing things, to make a situation livable for me in a place where I had to stay for basically a month. And I hope that you see that what I was doing was primarily to ensure that I would be able to actually live without taking on some kind of any kind of weird disease from the living situation. There were a lot of times where I was cleaning out clutter and found nothing but maybe cat turds and mouse droppings, and it was kind of like the fish tank when I first got there. Everything was so dirty that it was hard to even come up for oxygen, because I was already overwhelmed with everything that was going on around me. I'm not someone who gets overwhelmed too easily, but the situation was overwhelming. If you didn't see that at the beginning of the video, if you're ashamed to see it, or if you don't know if you should be seeing it, maybe you really should be watching it a lot more closely. Keep looking at all the details and you'll notice how it gets refined. Every single time I pass through these areas, things get more and more refined. This was the first day I was able to make something without feeling like I would make myself sick when I made some simple eggs, which there were eggs that were in the fridge that were expired for months, and then there were eggs that were still good for about a few weeks. Look at the cat replicating what I'm doing. It's pretty cool. If I made a claw, this cat would stick its claws out. It was pretty interesting. I was experimenting with a portrait shot here, and now you'll see one of the anomalies. There was an incident with the dishwasher, which already had a loose handle, and the handle came off while I was using it. I tried to fix that. I could have fixed it a lot better, but I ran out of time. I had essentially 5 weeks to do 3. There's a lot of mouse droppings on just one level of all the levels of the pantry that had mouse droppings. This is just one example of, at the bottom of every box, something I could find. This is when I organized the pantry. Look at that. I brushed the cats regularly. They loved it. I can't tell you, I did laundry for 3 weeks straight. I'm sure the electric bill is going to be interesting because of all the laundry I did. I tried to use the fireplace as much as possible, the wood burning stove. Although I did use the heaters in some cases just to add some spot heat, because I wasn't really given the opportunity to discuss with the homeowner who lived in this region how I could obtain the amount of firewood that I would need to heat the place for as long as I needed to. So I had to get creative. There are a lot of things that I haven't discussed with the homeowner or anyone else, that I was unable to discuss with anyone else, even though I was isolated in places that had blizzard-like conditions, where I had to find a way to get through, even during the power outages where I had to call and report things without being the actual homeowner and without... Look at this. I took a bath. It was when I got most everything at a point where I felt like I could finally relax. And here's an interesting point. It was April 16th when I took this picture. I already had plugged in my return route because it was already kind of apparent that I was being pushed out by the homeowner who suddenly didn't want to see me at all for some reason. I had a pressing feeling that they didn't want to talk with me because they had something they couldn't share with me. And that was apparent because they wouldn't answer simple questions like, hey, where did you get this amazing wind chime? And hey, are these other cats related to this cat? Simple questions. And hey, I got these things at this store that's near your location. And that's the only thing they would respond to. Is when they responded, they didn't answer any of my questions that were related to actually maintaining the home. And they followed up saying, those things that you bought, which you're about to see in a few seconds here, you could have got them for 30% less at this other store. Another store in some other place where I wasn't even at. So it's like nothing that I did was right. It was nothing but arguments, it was nuts. But I continued to persevere and to streamline things and to enjoy the beautiful mountain scenery and all the things that kind of thing brings around, like the wildlife and the solitude and the peace and quiet, all those things that someone who deserves to live in a place like this would want to enjoy. I even walked around the property and picked up trash that was on the property. I can't tell you how many Mylar balloons are out there. It's possible some of my cousins have released some of those from here in Texas. They do that to celebrate which is something I get kind of upset about. I got really good at peeling oranges in one shot without having multiple pieces of peel. I didn't even tell the homeowner I went and got pizza one day because I thought they would get somehow sarcastic with what I ate and say that it was, a really crappy decision or whatever. I tried everything there that day. It was great. Everything that was pizza and cheese related. Look at the floors. You don't see any of the spots. It took hours to sit down and hit each tile to get the wax or pudding or glue or whatever it was that was dropped on the floor. And then constantly I was assaulted with more snowstorms, which was great because I still had to stay in the place and clean up the things I was finding, which were in increasing amounts of pockets of places that I only searched because I got more and more suspicious based on some of the non-feedback that I got. The bottom shelf of the fridge, whatever I cleaned off of there smelled so horrible. Look at this shelf with all the colors. That's the shelf that blew up. Look at that snow that's coming off of the roof. That was pretty cool. And look how clean the fridge is now. I relaxed every sundown. I sent pictures to the people who are having this communication. I put together things in anticipation of the return of the occupants of the house who I hoped I would get to spend some time with. And the way I was repaid was basically to be told to vacate the house and not to get a clear answer either as to when. And each day I would ask and try to suggest, hey, this was a funny picture. I liked it. I would say, hey, I've got things that'll look how tall the tomato plant is getting. When there was snow outside on the seats, I would just play standing up on the balcony. Here's another picture for your enjoyment. At some point, you'll be able to say you knew me before I was famous. The flowers were all blooming when I was there on all the plants. I went around watering them. There are a lot of half-drunk bottles of water. I had to make sure they were not vodka. But look at the toilet seat. It was cracked and it's slightly different color than before. And there's other colors on there you'll notice too. But I had to take the water that was in the half empty plastic bottles because the homeowner had a thing about not using those waters if they were already touched because they didn't know what germs they had on it. The plants don't care. So I basically even went through the car and found probably a half dozen mostly filled. Look how tall that tomato plant is getting just over that short amount of time. And it started to flower a couple of days before I left. So I watered the plants with premium water. The fish were all healthy. The shoes were put in order. The TV was put into the place. I wanted to replace this or make a cover for that was custom. That's my cooler, my favorite cooler. I wanted to make a cover for the light switch covers that didn't have light switch cover. Look at a creative thing I did with this plant. This is what you would see without the plant there, so I left the plant there, and also that little music system was just incomplete parts that were all around the house that I put together out of the parts that the homeowner had so they can enjoy their music again. I did everything I could, really. The books that are straightened out fit in the places they were at. I put together a lot of things in order to resolve problems that had existed around the house that were told to me that were problems. One of the problems I was told about was the shimmy of the car that was just suddenly recognized when I was driving the homeowner to the airport to drop them off for this thing that they chose to do to better their life, not to better my life. And for whatever reason, they asked me to take the car to get repaired as well, which I didn't have time for, so I didn't do it. My own car had a shimmy that I just did yesterday that I just got addressed when I returned and then finally got settled in a couple of weeks later. But in the meantime, while I was at this location, I was cleaning it up to the point where, and repairing it, you can see the dishwasher had the handle back in its place again. And repairing it to the place where the homeowner and the pets, as you can see. Oh, speaking of pets, check out this picture frame. It was a replacement for a broken picture frame that the homeowner had already bought. Look at those pictures. Those are something I printed out and put in there. And I just kind of walked around taking a few random pictures of certain things that you may or may not recognize as inspiration points or creativity topics or whatever. It was really cool. I found a bag of cereal that I had brought with me and I forgot. And so at the end, I got to have some amazing cereal with some soy milk that was supposed to be used by 2017. Soy milk apparently lasts a long time. So does coconut water. I thought this was interesting. These caps are a choking hazard for kids. They were all over the house, along with fishing hooks, pills, and all kinds of things mixed in with the toys. I can't say enough about how I would not have sided with my friend if I were ever questioned as to the safety of the child that might have been getting raised in this location. And so that's why I mentioned what I did to this person, and I cleaned up the place in a way. I even put the monitor back where it went and the laptop holder back where it went so that the homeowner could enjoy this space just by plugging in and getting to work, you know. I did so many things that were related to so many topics that I can't hardly specify whether it was good or bad unless I look at the work. And when I look at the work, I know what I did was good. I know it was right. I know it was right for the homeowner. I know it was right for the child. I know it was right for the pets. I know it was right for me. And I know it was right, you know. I enjoyed putting things where they belonged. I enjoyed working with the lives that were there. I cleaned there was so much dust on all these adapters and outlets. I didn't clean this place as much as I could have if I had a little bit more time. And I did everything I could, like I say, to put certain things in order in a way that made sense. This is the way that it was before. And when I say this is the way, I mean really look at how it was before with the mouse droppings. Really look at what's at the bottom of every box. Can you even tell what was in these boxes? And really look at how I even vacuumed as far down the stairs as I could and continued to have fun with the tools that I brought to have fun, which were basically a guitar and a sense of wonder. This room was pretty interesting in that I can't tell you when it was vacuumed last, but the staples and little nails and errant discarded junk that was in the rug came up pretty easily as soon as I took all the debris off the floor and consolidated everything. Look, there I am peeling off an orange peel once again in one shot. How cool. And there's the cat. All the cats loved exploring these new areas to jump on. I've got a story about that banner that's hanging down. I'd love to tell someday, but you know, that's another thing for another day, I guess. And as I look around at what was left, there's my stuff, my pills, my folic acid was all I had left at the end of this trip. I put everything back in the fridge in a way that looked beautiful. The tomato plant that I took was flowering, which means it'll fruit at some point in the not too distant future if it's taken care of. And some of the bottles of interesting things that I found were mixed arrays of just additional rubbish. And I say that in a careful, constructive, meaningful way, saying that I don't dig rubbish. I don't think anyone does. And I know we can tell the difference between trash and not trash. And so if anyone's going to trash my reputation or my name, look at the elk. That was one of many herds that I drove through in the middle of the night. I made it back in one night. Look, I had to hit 385, US 385. Those are my tomatoes at home that I planted, that I started this segment with. And just like I started the segment with something that I'm ending it with, I started it talking about the Jeep program. On my route home, you'll probably have noticed there were 2 stops. Those were for 2 additional Jeep trails, so I completed 3 Jeep trails. This is the first badge that I've got so far. If you're going to criticize someone, don't forget to do your own work and show your work and tell the full story, you know, so that other people can follow through based on accurate information. Inaccurate information is probably one of the bigger ways that our governments have helped us to continue the misconception that all chemicals are okay for us in moderation. However, there is no delineation between the chemicals that we're taking in our produce and foods, and especially when it's combined with prescriptions, and especially when those are combined with over the counters, and especially when those are combined with whatever other chemicals that you decide to add to those equations. For me, remove all sources of potential problems, take it down to the foundation if you have to, but don't forget, if you're happy doing what you're doing, it doesn't really matter what kind of conditions you're in. You can succeed and persevere through everything and find a way to make it make sense for not just for you, but for other people. And when you do it for someone else, it's always going to be something that resonates within you as well. And it's going to pay you handsomely, and it's going to make you more handsome, because when you smile, you know, you can't help but being handsome and attractive, and that's the kind of thing that brings a positive attitude to more than one person. So I hope I'm bringing you something of value. I know that in the past I've known things of value, but mostly it's things that I have to go and had to get myself. My own past didn't include the levels of compensation for the work that I've done that would allow for me to have lived the lifestyle that some people have. And I'm so grateful for being able to have seen a glimpse of the lifestyle of living in a place like the wilds of Montana. It's amazing to know that there are people who have traveled the world and enjoyed it with you know, whoever they cared to. It's amazing to know that there are lives like that out there in the world to aspire towards. And sometimes until you know, you don't know. And until you know what I'm all about, well, you know, knowing is half the battle. Go Joe. Peace, love, and all of that new age, hippie, religious type stuff. None of it's daunting. None of it's anger inducing. It's just truth. Truth is truth. The truth can hurt. The truth can also set us free. So here's to a truthful Mother's Day weekend and an exceptional continued new year. Happy early or belated birthday to whoever's listening to this. May you celebrate it fully. And that's about it. That's all I have to say. Again, there's some prior videos. Enjoy those if you want to, but don't be surprised if you see me on some other news feed at some point doing something else amazing with some other amazing people. And also don't be surprised if I simply don't care to respond anymore to people who have not responded to me. Peace.